All right. We are live for the Friday edition of the Morning Check-In. And as always, looking forward to connecting, sharing my 2 cents on a variety of subject matter. And it looks like that pesky inflation isn't going anywhere. So therefore, there may not be a immediate interest rate cut, which further prolongs the inevitable. And so we're going to talk about that and a lot more. But anyway, hope everyone's doing well this good morning. And as always, for those who are plugged in, let me know where you're watching from. Feel free to drop a comment. Let me know in the chat or wherever you're tuning in at. Definitely let me know where you're checking me out from. Definitely want to give you a quick shout out. And if you are new, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, check mark, subscribe, join the community so you can always stay plugged in when I put out a video or go live. Either way, it's going to be a good morning. So as always, I have 4 or 5 topics all relevant to the bigger picture, which happens to be the reset that we're currently in now. And of course, trying to steer you in a direction to take proactive measures to protect and preserve everything you work so hard for, while all along trying to keep you spiritually charged along the way. So we got some good news, market activity, and some of the headline noise that we're going to touch on this morning. So definitely drop your thoughts in the comment section. Before I move forward, let me give you a glimpse as to what we're going to touch on briefly, and then I'll get into some of that good news. So first and foremost, let's jump right into it. Well, let me get my screen here. Give me a second here. Got to get myself situated. All righty here. So looks like I have some technical issues already, so bear with me. Bear with me here. All right. Sorry for that. Didn't get my little normal check-in, but core inflation rate is up. Shouldn't be surprising. It's not going nowhere. We have Trump tariff, an alleged deal signed of some kind. But once again, as I mentioned yesterday, be on the lookout for more jawboning to try to keep the markets afloat while he runs against the narrative that the Federal Reserve can't cut rates. So we'll see how this goes. And then also, looks like the big, beautiful bill may have some issues. We'll talk about that. And then last, I want people to really pay attention to how Thomas Massey is being treated by his own party because he's not signing off on the big, beautiful bill, because he's very outspoken on how disastrous it is when it comes to further destroying our country. And so those are just some things that I'm going to touch on this morning. And of course, a lot more. But let's just get right into the good news. Let's get into the good news. Let me get my screen here. Bear with me, good people. Bear with me, good people. All right. So let's make it work. So we have peace in trials, June 27th. And so this scripture is from Philippians. It says here, not that I speak in respect of want, for I have learned in whatsoever state I am, therewith to be content. It goes on to say, Jesus never promised a storm-free life, but he did promise peace in the storm. Paul echoes this in Philippians 4:11, saying, I have learned in whatsoever state I am in, therewith to be content. That's not passive resignation, it's kingdom confidence. So it says in Mark 4, when the disciples were freaking out in the boat, Jesus was asleep. Why? Because peace isn't the absence of storms, it's the presence of the King. The prophets called him the Prince of Peace, and when he lives in you, so does his calm. Then it says here, Jesus said in John 14:27, my peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. That means your peace isn't based on your paycheck, the doctor's report, or the economy. Is rooted in the unshakable kingdom of God. So when trials come, don't panic. Tap into the peace that already lives in you. And then it gives this closing prayer. It says, Lord, thank you for your peace that anchors me in every trial, just as you promised. In Jesus' mighty name, amen. All right, my good people, as always, I hope that word there was something to charge you up this good morning. Okay, so yeah, just Friday morning, just real chipper right now. I just feel extra chipper this morning for some reason. Okay, but let's get into some market activities. Look at what the metals was talking about real quick here. Let me get my screen refreshed. get my screens together here. I got too many tabs open. That's what it is. Okay, so let me refresh this. Just look at some market activity real quick, and we'll keep it moving from there. Let's go right into it. So we have gold is $3,269. It's also yeah, it's up 45 as of now, 1.4%. Silver, 36,002 cents. Platinum, 1,348. Palladium, 1,123. And so that is definitely something to pay attention to. And while I'm at it, let's look at the crypto space. I know a lot of people speculate in that area there. So let's just see what we're looking at as of right now with some of the top projects. Let me zoom in here so you can see what I see. So as of right now, we have Bitcoin at 100,000, 100,000 and up. Ethereum, 2,400. XRP, $2. Solana, all these other things here. So yeah, once again, speculation is another way to take advantage of opportunities, my good friends. Okay, so let's just jump right into, let's look at the S&P 500 on the screen here. It looks like the markets are off to a very green start. So it looks like a majority of the things, let me zoom out, not sure what is going on here. Looks like everything is on the up and up this morning. Majority green. Nvidia is up the most, it looks like. And yeah, so far so good. So it looks like the markets is reacting very calm, given the Federal Reserve just came out with the concern of their pesky core inflation measurements ticking upwards. So that's going to put more pressure on them to hear from Donald Trump talking about the need to cut. But once again, if inflation is going back up incrementally, that lets us know that on the broader side of things, we're not in a position to be able to cut rates to juice the economy even more. So there we have the dilemma that we're going to have to wait and see how it all plays out. Okay, so let's get into some headlines real quick. Very first one, let's talk about this pesky inflation that is ongoing. And of course, because it's built into the system, it's permanent. When we look at inflation rates, that's basically the consumer price index, measuring the tools, measuring the everyday utilities that we use, goods and services we use, are ticking upwards. So regardless of how they want to label it as, we know the sticker prices on real world items never go down. They only go up. So that's the idea that core CPI, core rate inflation, whatever that metric they want to use, PCE, CPI, at the end of the day, it can only go up because the monetary base goes up. So the Fed is always going to be stuck. So the goal is to inform you so that you realize that no matter what they say, no matter what they do, no matter what, at the end of the day, it's these things here that will be your worst financial liability in the end. And of course, there's ways to minimize that risk. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so let's jump into it real quick. I'll just thumb through some of the headlines here because I got a lot of articles I want to get to. But just a summary here says a personal consumption index, the personal consumption expenditures price index, the Fed's primary inflation reading, rose a seasonally adjusted 0.1% for the month, putting the annual inflation rate at 2.3%. And mind you, we go back 4 years or so when Jerome Powell was talking about the need for sustained, inflation to be sustained above the 2-point mandate level for quite some time now. And so here we have their 2.3%, and it's been above 2% for some time now. And so then and there lies his original lie of inflation being transitory at first, but nevertheless, we've had a prolonged period of above 2%. And so once again, once we got above 2%, what would have been the plan to bring it below 2% when their mandate is 2? So no matter what, this pure metric of 2% is flawed, because 2% annually is compounding inflation, which means less purchasing power. Okay, and then this is where it really kicks in, excluding food and energy. So the two things that we need to exist, something for our stomach and energy to function in this world, are not included. It says core PCE posts respective readings of 0.2 and 2.7% compared with estimates of 0.1 and 2.6. So once again, both of the numbers that they received is greater than what they projected. but they try to spin it where respective readings, like, okay, respective readings. If people really realize the compounding nature of inflation, of these CPI figures they give us, it's just not nothing that it's not something that is, let me see, unilaterally stable in of itself. But then again, I understand people are not, we're not intentionally educated on these things because they don't want us to really pay attention to them because it'll make their lies that much harder to believe. Consumer spending and income showed further signs of weakening. Consumer spending is down. Income, with the increasing amount of layoffs, is plays a major part in this. It says spending fell 0.1 for the month while personal income declined 0.4%. So when you see zero point 0.1, zero point 0.4, those numbers are very small, but when you look at them from the from the viewpoint of an entire economy of 300 and something million people, of which, less than half of that is actually actively involved in the workforce, those things tend to add up because our entire economy is built on consumption. That is the bulk of what makes this nation great, I guess, or whatever it is that, having had a reserve currency for so long that credit comes easy to everybody, which allow people to take on more debt that they can afford. Now we're seeing this all unwind right now. And these CPI figures makes it very hard for them to continue to control the narrative, in my opinion. And so, of course, you better believe Donald Trump's going to come out with some type of tweet sometime today, if not this weekend. Dumb Jerome Powell should have been cut. The economy would be booming. But then you got to look at it from his side of the view. The very metrics that he uses to gauge the elasticity of our currency, whether or not they're going to cut to spur spending or tighten to contract spending, is predicated on these numbers. And everything that I just read is increasing incrementally, which tells us that inflation, according to their own measurements, is not going anywhere. And we all know that the true inflation numbers are well greater than this, but taking them at their own data points, they're losing, they're failing, or depending on how you look at it, they're winning, because ultimately the goal was to get us to this point where they would drain the economy of its entire productive capacity and then usher in an entirely new system, which is all about the digital dollar, stable coin, CBDC, all that stuff I talk about all the time. Okay, so I can go on and on, read you more about that, but just to show you from their own data point, inflation is not going nowhere. Therefore, don't expect a cut. Therefore, it's going to be a prolonged stagflationary environment we're in now, where certain pockets of the economy will do worse than others. And those ultimately who have assets, people who have tangible wealth that is designed to attract all this excess liquidity that's coming, will be the beneficiaries. Just so you know. So what does that mean? Get your weight up. Okay. Another little article worth touching on here. Here we have Trump tariffs. Trump says U.S.-China framework signed as Besant targets Labor Day for key deals. So here's the thing. Once again, from yesterday, I mentioned how, as a result of all the distractions and diversion tactics, it's Trump's thumbs or his social media presence which juices the markets every day. So every day there's volatility up or down, bond market down, bond yields go down or up. All that activity is predicated on what Donald Trump says because the markets react accordingly. And so I mentioned yesterday that because of all the geopolitical issues as well as the impending tariff situation that ends in July, expect more verbiage from him to try to navigate and control the narrative. And then the very next day, or actually yesterday, it was announced, reported today, that they signed a agreement of some kind, but it's not actually a deal. That's the part where I'm like, oh, and as a result of just saying that, a framework, so literally a framework is signed, to me is a reason why the markets are more green than red, because had he not said anything, more than likely it would have been probably in the red today on Friday. And they don't want to go into the weekend with market volatility of this kind to where it just sets up for Monday being that much more challenging. Because literally we're in a point now, and this is a little bit of a side note, that I'm witnessing as I watch all this volatility, the volatility index especially continue to surge when the markets tank. and vice versa. We're in a world where we're week by week based upon mainstream events. So whether it's politics within our own country, events outside our country, market activity, consumption level activity, the private sector, public sector, whatever sector, whatever industry, we're usually one event from the markets responding. And this doesn't play into the narrative of Trump trying to say the economy's booming, everything's great. We just need to get over this hump. When the Fed cuts, we're off to the races. But as I just mentioned, you can't cut if inflation is continuing to go up. So that's where he's going to have an issue. So clearly, there's no solution to this problem other than them continue to do what they do, which is to jawbone the American public, try to keep the markets relatively stable, while all along we see gold and silver and platinum and eventually palladium continue to trend upward because people realize that you can't trust politicians, period. No president can tell the truth because if he did, he wouldn't have a job. So he has to give you more propaganda to keep you passive. That's all. Long-winded answer. Okay. Let's keep it going. I got more for you. So once again, my goal is just to highlight the mainstream lies because that's all you can expect at this point in the midst of this reset. So let's just go through some of the key points here and I'll give you the real on it. So it says U.S. and China stepped closer to a full tariff and trade deal on Thursday, making a pact to formally cement the informal trade. So think about this. Making a pact to formally cement the informal trade says absolutely nothing. Think about that. That statement doesn't give any validity towards there being an actual deal worked on and signatures on paper confirming that this is all over with. Because once again, a debtor nation can't be literally controlling the terms of what a productive nation is allowed to do in the global economy. All the U.S. does is export debt. And China sends us things that say made in China all across your house. How can the slave dictate to the master the terms of a deal? And slave, I mean by the debt issuer, tell the person that actually does all the work, the banking, the building, and the shipping, what the terms of the agreement is going to be, without there being some type of confrontation for the most part. And that's where this whole tariff trade situation will not work because the U.S. brings nothing to the table other than threats, what we had a reserve currency status, and our debt market being the most liquid in the world, which kind of keeps the system at float. So once again, if you are the creditor or the one that does all the heavy lifting, wouldn't you look to get out of that system that's rigged against you and go create another one, find another one, or partner with other people who treat you with more respect and treat you more as an equal partner rather than just using you all the time and giving you nothing but problems? See, those are things that people don't really consider. Like, America has been a leech on the world. And I'm not complaining per se, because all of my life I've been a benefactor of the results of the policies given, but everything good must come to an end. And because I know that, that's what kind of spurred into me rethinking the dollar as well. So, yeah, okay. Lot of ranting there, but within all that, you too are placed in there because if you're in the U.S., you've been living good, regardless of your financial situation, because you have everything that the rest of the world would definitely love to have. You're blessed. Thank God for those blessings. Okay, so just to read into this, it says, quote, "We just signed with China yesterday," Trump said during an unrelated event at the White House. Though he did not provide further details, China said both sides have confirmed further details on the framework. So Trump said he signed something. China then validated by saying both sides have confirmed further details on the framework. So Trump says he signed something. China saying that we've talked about some things. And so here we have now the market responding favorably to just mere words. And so the big difference in this is the fact China kind of vouched for Trump and saying that, yeah, we did meet. We talked about some things. But then again, I didn't see a quote from China anywhere saying that we have signed something. But Besant, he says, I think we could have trade wrapped up by Labor Day, said Besant. So Labor Day, we got some time before we get there. That's September, people. So we got July, August, and all that leads to possible volatility in the markets and uncertainty, not to mention all the other geopolitical things that's out there, and God knows whatever else might pop up between now and then. So once again, none of the things mentioned are reference to this trade deal. It's valid. It's all talk. That's what he does best. So don't fall for the tricks. Okay, but let's keep it moving. More stories worth touching on. And in the meantime, the U.S. needs to pay its bills. And the big, beautiful bill is not getting all the love that he would like for it to amongst his own party. And of course, Massie being one of the people who's against it, and I'm in 100% support of Thomas Massey. I am a Thomas Massey cheerleader now. I will be rooting for him all the way because he is one guy who appears to talk the talk, and he has put forth the effort to try to do things in the best interest of the people with all the bills, audit the Fed bill and audit the gold vaults and legal tender, gold, silver. He's very pro sound money, and that to me is the closest thing to truth that we can actually get from somebody who elected to represent the people. Because this guy on the screen right here, he'll tell you what you want to hear when you want to hear it, and then move on to the next thing. That's why, for those who know, it's better than what we had before, but I know he's a part of the deal too. So they're all in on this. And so Thomas Massey being pushed out of the Republican Party because of his stance lets me know that that's the guy I'd rather stand with, because there's more truth there when there's resistance out from you and within your own party. Things were okay. So let's just read this real quick. And so let's jump into this real quick, because once again, it's going to pass. It's going to pass because the U.S. got to pay their bills. But the issue is, what will they put within the bill to pacify a lot of the other people to sign off on it? So everybody gets a chance to put their favorite cause or their favorite program in this bill for Uncle Sam to fund through that, so that they can get their piece of the pie, while the American people get stuck with the bill when it comes to inflation eating away at our purchasing power. Yeah, they good. We not. Says Senate Republicans are scrambling to resurrect President Trump's big, beautiful bill. And here's the thing. If anybody really thinks that the big, beautiful bill was written by Trump, or here's the thing, Donald Trump hasn't even read the dang thing. He just putting his name on it because it's been provided to him during his administration. And no matter what, it requires the government to borrow. Therefore, if our government is borrowing, we can expect more and greater debt loads on our country. Therefore, the very same thing that Doge was supposed to fix, it won't be fixed, because if Doge has saved us $534 billion to date, we still have 2 trillion and counting. So literally, here's the thing. This number right here is the deficit, and it cannot stop, because if it stops, then bills won't be paid and activity won't continue to move forward. So no matter how fast this moves and is a lot greater. So no matter what, when the bill, big beautiful bill, is signed, what we can expect is a bigger one of these numbers. That's just how this goes. So it will get signed. It's just more so how long before somebody caves in or Trump has to remove something, yada yada. Okay, so, but then again, our financial future is tied into what's inside of this bill, because it just adds more to the debt that I just referenced that is the problem anyway. So yeah, okay, give you an idea. It says, which stalled Thursday as parliamentarian Elizabeth McDowell rejected one of its biggest cost-cutting provisions. Biggest cost-cutting. Mind you, they create a bill loaded with expenditures with the idea of it being productive for our economy, which then cuts spending somehow, some way through the productivity that supposedly comes about from the debt we created. So debt, productivity, cut costs. But they never pay back the initial debt load. They just all talk about the interest on the debt. So this in and of itself is the part where people don't realize that they're creating something from nothing into existence and never paying back what was created, but needing to create more of that just to pay the interest on what was created. Herein lies the greatest Ponzi scheme that has ever, not ever, but which has made this which has made this nation what it is. And no nation based upon debt lasts forever. Okay. It says the Chambers referee ruled Senate's proposed cap on health care provider taxes, violated by Byrd rule, which governs that the legislation can pass with a simple majority and avoid a filibuster under budget reconciliation rules. The provision would cut hundreds of billions of dollars in federal Medicaid spending. And so it says we have contingency plans and Plan B and Plan C. He says so losing Senate's proposal to deeply cut on federal Medicaid payments means Republican leaders will need to come up with hundreds of billions in new savings to pay for the cost of making several corporate tax permanent. So once again, as a part of the bill, the goal is to cut taxes. But if you cut taxes, you cut revenue. So the issue is some of the issues that she's presenting as a problem has to do with Medicaid payments. And so no matter what, the idea of cutting corporate taxes but not actually addressing the Medicaid issue is in and of itself a problem, because Medicaid is one of our government's biggest expenditures. And just to show you what I'm referring to, let's just zoom in here, go to the very bottom, and it'll tell us some of our greatest financial burdens. Let me get to it here. What we got? Deficit chain. Let me see. Where's it at? Restock. Nope. Where's it at? Okay. Well, just call it Medicaid. Where's it? Unfunded. Okay. Well, anyway, but it of itself is a major problem. Okay. But I won't be able to find it. So forgive me. Okay, let's keep it moving. Couple more things here. Okay, so we get the issue here. So because of these small, minor details, which add up tremendously in billions of dollars, which ultimately equals additional trillions added to our national debt, they're bickering. Nothing's moving. Our government runs the risk of running out of funds to pay previous debts. So therefore, it's a problem. Okay. And what bothers me most about this is that Thomas Massey, who is very outspoken on how disastrous this is for our country and how this doesn't even come close to making America great again, how the Republican Party now is bashing him and literally calling him out on the carpet with these ads within his state, trying to have him removed from his seat. And so if Thomas Massey is speaking truth, just telling the people how bad this is, his own party wants him gone. If they replace him and put somebody else in there, they're putting in literally a puppet who will do as he's told and not question anything. Therefore, we lose even more people that's willing to speak truth, because even, the Rand Pauls, he'll talk a good game, but once again, he's not going this far to really put his career on the line. So Rand Paul, as much as he touts for his father's, legacy as far as being a gold and silver guy and truth and, coming out bashing Fauci and all that stuff like that, quiet, he's crickets now. Because think about this, at the end of the day, he doesn't want to lose his job. So he knows he has limits to things he can and say and won't say. So, point in case is, don't trust these people. Okay, so let me just read to you real quick here. And so this is from Thomas Massey, and it says here, this came out today at 7:12 this morning. He put it out here on his page. And so just for those who may not know Thomas Massey, campaign account of Thomas Massey, fighting for Kentucky's 4th district since 2012. Pro-Constitution. He's a sound money guy. He's been speaking more truth as of late, and I think he has been targeted in multiple ways. He recently lost his wife rapidly overnight. A lot of questions behind that, and a lot of threats to his family. But he still continues to speak truth. So he's gonna go out swinging no matter what, and that's something that I think is worth getting behind, in my opinion. But it says here, the big, beautiful bill keeps getting worse in the Senate. So the desperate smear campaign against me has begun. This is from the sleazy 1 million TV ad campaign running in my district now. Here's my donation link if you can help me beat back these lies. So just a little mention. You got the Iranian head of Iran. Then you got Sanders here. And it says Massie sided with them. And this is about the bill. And so it doesn't stop there. Let me give you a little bit more from his account. And so I haven't contributed yet, but I probably will, even I'm not in Kentucky. But I want to see guys that fight for justice and truth at least have a chance. And so even though he's fighting a behemoth, but as long as he fights, that's cool with me. So real quick, it says here, will lobbyists for a foreign country be able to buy a seat in Congress? That's the question in my re-election. It says 1,900 of you donated so far, but here we got an article from Daily Caller. AIPAC, which is the Israeli pro-lobbyist group that has paid for in every politician to support Israeli causes. What they're saying is AIPAC seeking out challengers to upseat Representative Thomas Massey. So AIPAC, which funds everybody's campaign in some way or another, is going after to have him removed. And so, give you an idea, it says, let me see here. Even Trump called them all types of terms. So anyway, so once again, just something worthwhile. There's other things that I don't have on here from him, but just what I consider good things to be aware of, because the big beautiful bill will get passed. It'll just probably be trimmed off a couple of dollars here and there, but it will pass. People will continue to be, their currency will be diluted. The basement will take place. Debt will continue to grow. We know how this all goes. But in the meantime, the goal is to be aware of the things that's going on right now, not believe the hype. Inflation isn't going nowhere. Donald Trump's going to continue to jawbone the markets up, and he's going to continue to try to make America great again. But once again, if our country's imploding from within, and the division amongst their own party members, if you're trying to get rid of your own party member because he's speaking out against something that we all know is disastrous, even Trump knows that, but he can't go against the grain, because if he did, he wouldn't have a job. And so, once again, these are things I believe are important and worth paying attention to, because you won't get this particular spin and this angle on the mainstream media. And so, as always, for those who are plugged in, if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button, show your support for the channel, subscribe if you're new, so you can stay plugged in and get an alternative perspective. And also, I don't want to leave without giving you guys some strategies on things you can do to protect and preserve everything we talked about, because at the end of the day, big beautiful bill will pass. Therefore, this thing will purchase less. Therefore, the cost of existing in this realm will only increase, because that's just how the system floats. But you can protect and minimize some of the risk by actually taking proactive steps to get physical. And that's why I believe in sharing some things that I do myself. So on the screen here, mini gold bars, the smallest gold bar available, 1/4 grain, 24 karat gold. As you see here, half the size of a dime, but it packs a powerful punch, because once you buy it once, it only appreciates, nominally speaking, in dollar terms as they create more dollars, therefore allowing you to absorb some of the liquidity that will be created and not lose out. So you'll gain more purchasing power, in my opinion. Once again, this is all one man's opinion, not financial advice, but monetary history has always shown us that people who hold gold and silver tend to withstand storms. So if you guys are interested, go to minigoldbars.com, and as you can see here on the screen, this is what it comes in here, a little small little thing here. And so just something to be aware of. Options, solutions, strategies. Next, right now, platinum is on the move. And I definitely want to make sure you guys are ahead of the curve. I've been talking about this for months now, and I'm happy to actually be able to offer this through the silver store. So if you're interested in getting yourself some 395 platinum, then links in the description as well. And then, of course, last, I can't not tell you about the opportunity when it comes to getting the goldbacks. And so on the screen here, you see a variety of goldbacks. And of course, every size on the screen here is right in my hand, from this small one to this one, to this one, to this one. So all 5 on the screen, all 5 in my hand. Put my money where my mouth is, getting 24 karat gold. So if you're interested, go to buygoldnotes.com, links in the description. Get yourself some if you see value in holding gold at this current time. But once again, that's just my 2 cents. Hope everyone has a great day, blessed weekend. Love, live, learn, laugh. Take this, share it so other people can get an alternative perspective. And I'll catch you guys later.